Hey everyone, so today's day one video is probably going to be a little bit short because I don't have a lot of feedback to give, but there are a couple of things that I want to talk about. So yesterday in my introduction, I let you guys know that I'm doing a 7-day Spanish challenge to see how much I can learn about a language in 1 week. And I'm basing my method off of a pretty popular YouTube video called I Learned Italian in 7 days and a follow-up video called I Learned Portuguese in 7 days by a YouTuber named Nathaniel Drew, who happens to be a polyglot. And in day one and how he starts his method is just by looking up the top 1,000 vocabulary words in the language that he's studying. So I believe in the first video that he made for Italian, he said he looked up like lists online of the top 1,000 words in Italian, but then he seemed to like add his own words as he went along, which makes a lot of sense to me because if you're learning a language, most likely, like as you're trying to sort through different things or you're reading through resources, you're gonna come across new words and you're gonna want to add those to your list, right? And then the interesting thing that I found about that and like what his method and what he did was that when he went and did Portuguese, he realized that he kind of knew what words he needed for conversations. And he was able to base his own list and make his own list off of that rather than having to look up the top 1,000 words in Portuguese. So here's what happened for me. When it comes to Spanish, the first time that I tried this challenge about a month ago, I told you guys a little bit about that in the last video, but I started this challenge and I didn't finish it, and so that's why I'm working on it now. But when I started it the first time, I did look up a couple of lists online of the top 1,000 words in Spanish. It was hard because I was kind of getting confused between not only different countries, but also like vocabulary that was popular in Latin America and vocabulary that was used in Spain and things like that. But I figured, you know what, the majority of this is probably going to be useful either way, so I'll just keep going. I did find a site at one point that was like quizzing me and it gave me the top 1,000 vocab words, but some of them were really obscure. And I was just thinking to myself the whole time, like, I don't think I'm going to use some of these words in some of my basic conversations that I first start having when I start speaking Spanish. So, I mean, a lot of them were really good and helpful and I added them to my list, and others not as much. So I actually decided to take the approach that he did the second time, which was to basically make my own list of words that I knew that I need in my conversations. And I mean, I haven't studied a ton of languages, so I'm not an expert on this topic yet. I'm still trying to figure out like my needs when it comes to the vocabulary that I use in my first conversations in a language. But I have a pretty decent idea of what conversations look like when language learners first get started because I coach language learners all the time. So I basically started with those things. I know myself and I know the types of conversations that I have, and based on that, I can think of different words that I might want to add to this list. And that's what I did. And I know that the list is going to grow. I still want to get to 1,000 words in the day one because when I tried to do this the first time, what I did was I did I broke it up so it was like 150 words every day so that I would get to 1,000 words by the end of the week. But the thing is I ended up doing so much focusing on vocabulary so much that I wasn't spending enough time on grammar, and I think that's what killed me the first time. So there's an insight for you guys if you're going to try something like this. I mean, everyone's a little bit different. Maybe breaking up vocabulary from day to day will work for you. But for me, I think I need to get the bulk of it down within the first day or two so that I can really focus on grammar after that, and then start immersing myself for the rest of the week and really practicing the vocabulary and the tenses that I've gone through already. Because if I don't have time to practice, I'm just going to be trying to memorize a lot of vocabulary, and I'm not gonna have a lot of communication skills in 7 days. So it's a difficult challenge, and it's hard to say. And I mean, this is where I definitely started to learn things about myself and the way that I learn the first time around that I didn't know before. And now because of that, I have that to back me up, and I'm here now and I'm saying, okay, this is what worked for me. I'm going to try this now, etc. So for day one, I would say I like his idea of making your own list of a top 1,000 words of things you talk about and the words you use. Obviously, those are going to change a little bit from language to language because people express things in different ways than they do in your first language, for example. But for the most part, you can build a pretty strong list by thinking about things that you talk about and what you use. But if languages aren't something that you think about all the time, this might be something that you're like, I have no idea what words I use, or like, I've never studied grammar, or I haven't studied grammar in my first language for a long time. Like, how am I supposed to know which words to look up? And if that's where you're at, then looking up a list of the top 1,000 words in the language you want to learn is probably a really good idea, because it's a place to start. And you'll always add to that list, and you'll start to learn more about yourself and the words that you need and the words that you use as you go along. But I mean, that's something that when I learned my first spoken language, I mean, that was something that seemed really easy for a lot of other people. But for me, I was just not picking up vocabulary because I wasn't looking at it with that mindset of like, okay, what conversations am I having on a daily basis? Like, what conversations are relevant to my life? I was just taking whatever vocabulary my teacher gave us that day. And I was just like, okay, these are cool words. But we have to change our mindsets. And I think that's my biggest takeaway for day one is really think about like, what are the conversations that you're having in your life? And based on those conversations and the way that you like want to be able to talk, I guess, like depending on your goals and where you're at in your language learning process, you're gonna approach vocabulary a little bit differently. Okay, you guys, I hope you found my day one video interesting and helpful, and I can't wait to tell you more about how day two goes. So wish me luck. I feel like I should probably talk in Spanish right now just so you can see how much I can say. And I don't want you to be impressed, okay? Because I literally just memorized this, and I'm telling you that before I speak. But here we go. Me llamo es Mallory y soy una entrenadora de inglés y estoy aprendiendo español esta semana. I think I can say that this week. We'll see how it goes. And I will see you tomorrow for day two. Adios.